Welcome to my video, welcome to my channel. Today a new video. As you can see, I'm right in the middle of the forest and I'm doing some hiking. And on this hike I've brought along a backpack. It's just a regular backpack. I put about 4.5 kgs of weight in it to carry around, just to test. I do a lot of walking, or at least I try to walk a couple miles, a couple kilometers every weekend. Yesterday it rained all day. Today it's still dripping down, drizzling a little bit, so it's not ideal, but yeah, I wanted to get out in the forest. So I'm just testing out this bag because I'm looking into what a good backpack would be, and I will tell you a little bit about that during my hike. So why am I talking on my hike about prepping? Well, first of all, fitness is part of prepping. So being able to walk several miles, also with a backpack, is obviously very important. That's the first reason why I'm hiking. Second of all, the other reason is that I'm a little bit overweight, and I believe that a little bit extra weight is good because it means you have energy stored for if the food gets scarce, your body can consume its own body fat. So in that regard, I think it's good. But I mean, there's obviously a balance between being a little bit overweight and being too much overweight. So I need to drop a few kilos as well, and I'm hoping that this hiking will help me do that. So why this video? Well, as I said in one of my previous videos, prepping is all about knowing what you got and understanding what you got. And so the first thing is, are you scared in the woods maybe? Because there's wolves around, potentially. Well, I've been walking in these woods for a long time now, for over 10 years. And, it's quite rare to see deer or other animals, so let alone wolves, which are here in far lesser numbers. So, obviously there is a chance that you could see a wolf, but the chance will be slim in my opinion. So yeah, for me it's about fitness and it's about understanding my gear. Now, I'm not a hiker, I'm not a professional hiker, so I don't have a lot of gear for hiking. I have shoes, I have a backpack, but that's about it. A couple of examples. When I was walking in the past, I have quite thick legs. My boxer shorts would roll up and scrape on the inside of my thighs, which is very uncomfortable if you have to walk a long way, especially if you have to then walk the next day as well. I've now found different boxer shorts that have much longer legs, let's say, and they don't roll up on me. Still have to keep them in check, but they don't roll up and scrape my thigh. Now, if you want to walk, let's say, 6 miles 2 days in a row, it's kind of nice that your legs aren't hurting every step you take. I have to watch out a little bit because it's quite muddy from all the rain here. Another example is that I didn't really do anything with my feet, and I just saw that a lot of my socks were getting damaged, and I noticed that the underside of my feet were very hard and rough, like sandpaper almost. So recently I bought a foot file to get my feet nice and soft again, and I'm hoping that it will reduce the amount of holes I have in my socks. Now, another thing that I'm a big guy and I'm sweating quite easily when I'm doing exercise like I'm doing now. And sweating is kind of your enemy. First of all, you're losing fluids, which are valuable if you don't have a lot of water to drink. Second of all, if you stop exercising, now I know that when I come home I take a shower, but normally if I stop exercising, then I'm wet from all the sweat, and then you get cold, and it's very difficult for that. So The problem with that is that you need proper clothing to help with that. I don't have that yet. But what I saw, for example, is that there are jackets where you can open up your armpits, and obviously there's different types of shirt. A wool blend is fine, I think, with synthetic. I believe they said. I'm doing a little bit of research. I will come back to research as well. That is something to keep in mind as well. Is just clothing that you're wearing is something, for example as well, if it's cold and you have to wear this super thick jacket, and then after you're walking you're warm and you want to take the jacket off but you have nothing underneath, then that's annoying as well. So it's these types of things that I have to experience when I'm out here walking. And so now I have this backpack with about 4.5 kgs in. I think I walked about 2 miles now, so not that much. And so far no problems with my back or shoulders or whatever. This backpack I was able to pull the weight in by squeezing the pack, let's say, with the straps on the side of the bag. But this one doesn't have the magic straps, as they call them, but the straps, they pull the load forward over my shoulder. And this one also doesn't have the hip support. And so if I would carry more load, those are two things I would definitely want to have. But I will talk more about the backpack later. Yeah, as I said, it's been raining a lot, so this is the type of thing that you get. How do you get past all this mud? I don't know if it gets across in the camera, but or on video, but it's absolute a bloody mess. I had to go through there as well. Almost fell 2 times. It's so muddy and slippery that you have to be very careful. Okay, so I never walked this route before. I'm trying to get a bigger route to walk, so I'm just doing whatever feels right now. So I hope it doesn't get lost. But let's talk about research for a little bit. Obviously, when you are prepping, you have to do research. Doesn't matter what kind of research or what for, but let's say right now I'm researching backpacks and clothing. Initially, when you are prepping, you just look around the house and you just gather whatever you can find around the house that could be useful, in my opinion. That's what I did, at least. And then you realize, for example, that you don't have proper shoes for hiking, so you buy better shoes for hiking. It's a good investment because you can use it always, basically, in my opinion. Then, in my case, for example, I bought a multi-tool, but I didn't have a knife. That was my next big ticket item, to buy a proper knife. So you do research into knives. And but now the problem is, because you're doing research, especially on YouTube, then YouTube just gives you more and more hits. So even after you decide that you bought something, more stuff keeps coming up, and it's like, oh, did I make the right choice? So you start doubting yourself, and maybe you start buying more and more. So that is something you need to be aware of, and you need to be content with, let's say. So you make a choice. You say, okay, I need a knife and it needs to do X, Y, and Z. So you look up the reviews, and once you found a knife that you believe will do those things, you just need to drop it, basically. And that's difficult because you keep getting more information, and then you think, oh, maybe I should have. And in the background, maybe that is good to keep that in mind, that if there's a different situation, that you have an alternative option that might suit even better. However, the point is now you need to prep, and there's most probably several items that you need to buy still, and there's most probably several items that will be quite expensive to buy. So what I'm trying to say here is that you have resources and you have an amount of time to prep. So don't get stuck in trying to find the best and an even better solution. Just make a decision on what you want to buy. Buy it for the reasons that you are happy with, and then move on to the next subject. So for example, I watched a lot of videos on knives recently, bushcraft knives, because I wanted to buy a proper bushcraft knife. And now you see all these other knives that, for example, come for a similar price or can do other stuff. You're like, did I make the right decision? So I bought 3 knives, actually. I had one foldable knife. I will show that knife because I have it on me in the woods. So I bought 3 knives. So I bought 2 Odin Wolf knives. The reason why I bought the Odin Wolf knives is they apparently are quite good. Again, I'm walking through this mud. But the Odin Wolf knives are quite good, but they're also quite cheap. And so I bought 2. I bought a full grind and a Scandi grind knife, so that the the Scandi grind I can use for a little bit more, tougher jobs like splitting wood if I need to, and the Scandi grind is more for cooking and so on. Now these are basically my backup knives, and looking at the other knife that I bought, which is a Peloton M07 Puko, Ranger Puko, sorry. That knife I bought because it's an army grade knife. Army, officials or people are allowed to carry it. So it's, in my opinion, therefore it's a cheaper knife because it's mass produced, but also it's a high quality knife. And from the tests that I saw, it is a good knife. So I bought it with a Kydex sheet. That's my main knife. And then I upgraded my sheet with wrapping it in paracord and putting bicycle tire around it to seal the wrappings even more. And obviously bicycle tire is a good fire starter. A worst case scenario or last resort because of the plastic smoke or the rubber smoke, but it is a good fire starter. So hence I did that as well. Plus it protects the paracord from getting undone as well. So yeah, my point is that I bought these 3 knives, but now it's very tempting to keep looking at knives. There's 2 squirrels crossing the road in front of me. There was also, just as I put the camera down the other time, a deer walking in the distance. So at least seeing some animals. The thing with this is now I have good knives now. So stop researching knives and go to your next objective to research. And my next research point is bags and clothing, because that's where I'm lacking heavily if I need to walk. Now let's talk about how much I'm walking. So generally speaking, I try to walk at least once a weekend quite a distance. So I think the lap that I'm normally walking takes me about 1.5 hours, which is, I don't know, 6 kilometers, so 4 miles, something like that. I'm not sure. Generally I have to do it in between stuff, so I cannot go too far. Today I don't believe we have planned anything, and I wanted to walk further, and I wanted to find a new route. So I'm walking a different route. So I already see that I'm at the road where I normally go over to my work, and I know that I can go into another forest there, and then from there I can loop back. So this will be a little bit a bigger lap, but let's try and see where it takes me, because I know some of the routes but I don't know how they interconnect. So let's see. But yeah, the Netherlands is small, so I won't get lost too bad, I imagine. So yeah, let's keep moving for a little bit. So I'm showing this quick look around. If you know anything about survival, then you'll see there's a lot of moss growing on the floor, and that's obviously for survival. It has several different reasons and several different properties that you want. So it's good to see and good to know that there's stuff like that growing in my area if I need to use it. A lot of people might now say, but why are you not wearing a watch that can monitor how far you're walking and your heart rate and all that stuff? Well, I don't know. I don't feel like using technology for all those types of things. I'm not too big on all that technology and tracking, and it's the same, you know, people have Spotify on their phone and have a speaker that can play music over Bluetooth and whatnot. I'm using USB, SD and whatnot. I just don't like all the connecting. Same with the car, I don't like to connect my phone to the car, so I want navigation on the car and not navigating via my phone. And, you know, I'm a little bit old-fashioned maybe like that, but yeah, anyway. Let's go back to backpacks and clothing now. As I showed in one of my previous videos, I have a couple of bags. So what I did, I prepared the backpack that I recently bought, and there's a few issues with that. It's quite a big bag, so I can pack it quite heavily. It was quite an expensive bag, so I think it should be quite decent quality. I've taken it on several short trips. We had like weekend trips, or you know, staying over one night, for example, and then, you know, I fit my my toothbrush and an extra set of clothes and extra set of shoes in there. So that's nice. But yeah, the problem that I'm having now is I'm putting gear in it, and gear is obviously heavier. So the thing, I'm hiking now, but the backpack for me is not the main purpose of that backpack is not hiking. It's bushcraft and survival. So I'm not putting in the lightest gear or whatever. I'm putting in stuff that I can use, like a tarp, a knife, cooking stuff and whatnot. So a lot of it is similar to someone that would be hiking, but a lot of it is also maybe a little bit more bulky. And for example, again, going back to use what you got, I got an old axe, a big one, or I bought an axe, a big one and a small one in the set. So one is more like a hatchet, the other one is a full-on axe. But they are quite bulky and heavy, and the hatchet is like a wood splitting hatchet. And so, for example, if you look at a Fiskar lightweight axe, they have a hollow handle from, let's say plastic, composite, and the ones that I have a composite handle as well, but it's solid, so it's much heavier. And because it's a splitting axe, it has much more steel on it as well, so that makes it heavier as well. So I think if we would go to a Fiskar hatchet or axe, I could potentially save maybe half on the extreme side in weight. So it's something to consider, but for now I have something that I can work with if I need to. Okay, let's go back to the backpacks. So as I mentioned, I showed a couple of backpacks. With backpacks especially, I think there is a two-pronged approach, let's say. So on one end, you could really go for a backpack for hiking, and so it's lightweight and it's functional for that type of stuff. Or you could go, let's say, military grade backpacks that have all these nice loops and things to carry stuff. Now, both obviously have their pros and cons. I recently talked to someone and he said, yeah, but you know, the problem with going with those military style bags is that everybody can see that you're prepared, because you don't wear that for fun, especially in a scenario where you have to flee because there is whatever going on. If they see you're well prepared based on your gear, then they might assault you for your gear, because people might be desperate. And so going with a more traditional bag that doesn't stand out as much might be a better option. And then you lose some of some of the stuff that some of the easy access and some of the pockets and whatnot. But on the other hand, you're less noticeable, let's say. The one backpack that I bought, as I said, I did a couple of weekend trips with it. It was fine. But now that I loaded it heavily with, let's say, 15 kgs, so let's say about 30 pounds of stuff, again, because my weight is not optimized for hiking. I don't have ultra light stuff, so it's more heavy. And also I'm obviously taking too much gear right now. I haven't put any clothes in there. I want to put socks in there at least. But yeah, anyway. So my point is that I want a big bag. And what I notice now, if I put that bag on, I have a sleeping bag at the bottom because it has the straps to put something at the bottom. And the sleeping bag is just pushing uncomfortably in my bag, and I'm unable to shift the weight. So it has a lot of pockets and molly clips and whatnot. So in that sense it's nice, but it doesn't help me to fit to my body type. It doesn't help me to pull in the weight as close as possible, and it definitely doesn't help me against sweating. And as I said, I sweat quite easily, so having an option for that might be very useful as well. Now, I do have the hiker's bag, and I bought it like 15 years ago, so I don't know anything about it. I used it once, maybe twice. Okay, so I didn't use the hiking backpack that I have that much, and therefore, I don't know yet what the capabilities are. I need to investigate that bag, because if the bag is adjustable and it has all the features that I learned about now doing research, then maybe that bag is sufficient for me now, and I can focus on clothing instead of on buying a new bag. Now, if I need to buy a new bag, my choice would be, currently at least, an Osprey, I think Rook 65. So it's a 65 liter backpack from Osprey, which is a good brand. I think I can get the bag for around 150 euros, which is still for me a lot of money, but it's a good brand that can hopefully last for a very long time. And so then I don't have to worry about the backpack. I don't have to worry about a knife, because I have a good knife, and then I can focus on clothing. And when I'm walking uphill, by the way, that's why I'm breathing a little bit heavier. But so that is a point for me that now I'm researching and then buying or choosing which items I want to spend a little bit of money on. And obviously I had backpacks fill on me where, for example, the top of the shoulder where it mounts to the bag is ripping off. And if that happens in a survival situation, that's obviously very bad. Same goes for the weight. If you're constant in back pain and it's annoying and the weight is shifting backwards where you almost fall over backwards, that's obviously also not nice. So backpack is critical, especially if you're a beginner like me and you're not yet optimized your equipment and you've not yet optimized your weight. Then you want a bigger bag because you're taking too much shit in any case, and your shit's going to be heavy. So that's also why I don't want an ultralight bag, because I might puncture it with sharp objects because I'm packing it wrong, and so on and so forth. So that's why that Osprey, it's a reputable brand, but it's also a heavy duty bag. It's, I think, you know, it's an entry level bag for them, but it shows in the materials as well. It allows people to make mistakes with how they pack their bag and so on, and learn from it, and then they can spend more money buying a better bag. Now when you go on Amazon, there's a lot of different bags that, for example, also go for like 50 euros, but there's also bags that go for 400 euros. So again, what do you want to do? So I see a backpack as an investment because I like to walk, and then having a backpack that doesn't make your back all sweaty is kind of nice. So yeah, camera won't do it justice, but I just walked up this hill. Hill. Yeah, it's like a 10-meter incline over 40 meters or something like that. But anyway, yeah. So backpack is my next thing. I'm researching what I've got, and then I'm researching what I want from my pack, and if that pack that I have fits the bill. If it does, then I need to start adjusting it with the weight in it, see how it feels, and then from there I can start walking with it. And if it suffices, then fine, I don't have to buy a new backpack and I can focus on clothing, because clothing is also shit expensive from what I've seen. So yeah, choices. And as I think with survival and prepping, is that what do you do? What do you prep for? What is the likelihood? And what do you do with it? I mean, if you're not an outdoors person, you don't like to walk, you don't like to hike, then why bother, you know? Don't buy expensive shit. Just buy something that can last you for a couple of days. But if you plan on hiking and, you know, use your gear on holidays or whatnot, or when you're camping, then yeah, better buy some, you know. The point for me always is that I try to first see if I use it. And if I use stuff, then I buy a more expensive version of it. That's basically how I work. So same with welding, for example. If you've seen some of my welding videos, I started off with a really cheap machine, but it allowed me budget to buy a welding helmet and gloves and other stuff that I need for welding. And when I had all the other stuff, then I saved up for a better welder, and then everything fell together. So same with this type of stuff. Some stuff you want, some stuff you need, some stuff you don't have, some stuff you do, and then you need to balance out what do I have and what quality is it. So actually, besides making these videos, I also have an Excel sheet or a Word document where I'm tracking everything that I bought and everything that I have in my kit. And as I showed in a previous video, there are several different groups that you need to have stuff in: medical, food, bags, tools, etc. Now, you know, per group, I am making a list and seeing if I have everything that I need. I'm reading a book from the SAS on survival now, and it also gives me new tips. So one of the things that I didn't have in my kit is a magnifying glass, and I'm still needing to buy maps, but those two go hand in hand. You want to have a magnifying glass when you're reading maps, the old-fashioned way. And so, you know, you learn something every day, and so it goes on my list of what to buy next. And then when I have a little bit of money left over, I'm buying, you know, a map and a magnifying glass. So I'm just hiking and talking to you. I hope you don't mind, but I just had to. I walk this woods as well sometimes with my kids every year. From their school, they have like a 4-day hiking event, and they have to walk like, I don't know, 5 kilometers or whatever. And most kids, they get sent out into the woods by their parents with like half a kg of candy, you know, to walk 5 miles. You know, it's like funny to me, but anyway. And you can see how many kids are struggling and how many kids just walk, and other kids who even run the entire route. So it's actually quite funny. I had to think of it now that I'm walking here. Going uphill again, by the way. Yeah. So let's continue on talking a little bit more about clothing. I've been walking on this hiking shoe for about 3 months now. My previous ones, the soles got destroyed on the inside, I think because of my feet being too rough. So after I went through all my socks, my soles got damaged, and I tried to get new inlay soles, but the ones that I got weren't nice at all. And and I didn't take real good care of the shoes. I decided to buy new ones from a Dutch brand. I forgot the name, but they also are a little bit wider in the front. That I have a little bit more space for my toes and so on. So, up until now, really happy with them. And I walked shorter distances with them, and now I'm walking today, first time, longer. I've been now walking for over an hour, well over an hour. And I know where I am again, and I walked past where I'm crossing the road in a few minutes this morning as well. I know where I am. So basically what I can do now is go back into the forest and find my normal route, maybe even, and then continue on my normal route. Okay, so I crossed the road, and let's continue now, finally. So I think a lot of the clothing that I'm wearing is synthetic. My undershirt, whatnot, and therefore I'm sweating obviously more and it stays wet and so on. I looked into it. My clothes are cotton, most probably cotton shirts, and so if you have a set synthetic or wool blend or wool or synthetic, it's easier to dry off, and it breathes more, and it's better at moving sweat through your clothing and out and away, so that your shirt and your jacket and whatnot doesn't get wet from the sweat, and you cool down significantly while you stop exercising or walking or whatever. And so my undershirts is really something that I have to address. And then the other thing is that I mentioned, I think briefly in the video, that I saw a jacket where you can actually open up the armpits, and that would be something helpful as well for me. I think that those two items are next on my list. I got a coupon for a clothing store, and they had like a fleece jacket, and fleece is apparently also very good. And that fleece jacket was heavily discounted, so I bought it. I haven't worn it yet because it still needs to come in. But that might be one of the layers, the more the insulated layer that I need. But the base layer and the outer shell is something that I need to invest in. So it's just stuff that you're learning as you do research. Now, the funny thing about it actually is, I used to have a coworker that was big on hiking. We went to South Africa for 2 weeks to do research, and he's also joined us. And we all came to South Africa with, a big ass suitcase and a backpack where our laptops were in and whatnot. And the laptop that he was bringing was smaller than our laptop backpacks, and that was the only thing he brought. So basically he had toiletries in there, and he had one clean set. But what was the difference is that he had hiking gear, because he's an avid hiker. He walks easily 20 k's a day, and so he had all this quick drying stuff. So for him, when we would go out to dinner, he would put on his other piece of clothing and then quickly wash it, hang it up, and when we got back from dinner, his clothes would be dry and ready to go. And therefore he only had one set of spares, whereas we had like 6-7 sets of spares. I'm walking uphill again, by the way. And that was actually funny, and it was an eye-opener. Now that I'm looking back then I thought he's crazy. But now that I'm looking back, that shows what proper clothing and what experience, because obviously he has done this a lot, and he knows that he only needs, with this type of clothing, he only needs one spare set. And for me, obviously, I had never done it, so it's an experience that I don't yet have, but it is something I can learn from him, that if you have the proper clothing, you don't need much. And then obviously that clothing is lightweight as well, which is fantastic because it reduces the amount of gear that you have. Now recently I got a jacket from work for a certain project that I did, and the project stopped, so. But that jacket is a perfect insulation layer. It has a hood on it as well. So yeah, hopefully with the fleece jacket and that other jacket I have a good mid layer, let's say. And then again I need to focus on my base layer and my outer shell. And those will be expensive, I saw already. I think a base layer in the Netherlands you're looking at between 35 and 75 euros for a shirt. It's like, you said, 92, as I just said. So, and the outer shell, I mean, I haven't seen much outer shells under 250 euros. I'm like, geez, that's not even what I spend on a normal jacket, let alone on just a outer shell, which is like a thin windbreaker. So it's not really what I want to buy, but yeah, anyway, let's see. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of prices and a lot of ideas and a lot of research, and so I'm also, as I mentioned, reading the SCS book, which is basically paratroopers and that kind of stuff, and they are really true survivors obviously, and they give a lot of tips on how to use your environment and what tools to buy, and making sure that your tools are multifunctional and that you understand your tools obviously. So I'm learning a lot from that, and so that gives me new inspiration for what I could potentially buy or what I already have and can use. So yeah, while doing research on the area, on your tools, your equipment, surviving, it gives you new ideas and new insight as well. So hence I'm keeping a list. And actually what I started with yesterday is making a so-called cheat sheet. So I'm gonna make a A3 paper that I'm gonna print double-sided and laminate, and I'm just gonna put a lot of cheat things on it. So for example, what I have on it currently is different types of knots. So I know how to tie a knot. I know several from fishing, for example, but there are obviously a lot more. And so the other thing there is that I didn't know the phonetic alphabet, which is basically, if you are in a rescue situation and you need to spell out your name or whatever, that you're not saying M from Maria, A for asshole, but you're actually knowing A is Alpha and M is Milwaukee. I don't know, I forgot already. But you Tango, Bravo, Zulu, Whiskey, those types of things. That is the phonetic alphabet. So I'm making a cheat sheet about that, and in the SCS book they actually gave a couple of tips on where you could find, or how you could find water by, for example, looking at the birds, because birds are never far away from water. So if birds fly in a certain way, in a certain direction, then in that direction is water, or water is the opposite direction because it just drank. So yeah, it's stuff like that. It's really interesting. That's also why I like to be out in nature, because it allows me to see stuff. So for example, footprints in the mud now tell me, oh, this is a deer, this is a hog, this might be a wolf or a big dog. And the other thing as well is that you can see tracks. Now obviously we're not allowed to hunt in the Netherlands unless you're a licensed hunter, which is like a real let's say exclusive club in the Netherlands. and it's about forest management and not about hunting like it would be in America, for example, or South Africa. So yeah, but at least if you understand where animal tracks are and where the regular patterns are, if you need to survive, then you can snare in those areas. But if you don't know what to look for, if you've never been in a forest, you never, then, so experience by just being out here helps tremendously. And yeah, as I said, I love nature, so I love walking. So besides building, it's a fitness tool, and it's a way to test some of my gear. But it's also to get familiar, and every time you learn something from a book or from a YouTube video, for example, it helps you. And by the way, I think I mentioned it before, but when I talked about my dry bag, I do buy books. Reason being that I can take them with me when there's no internet and no power, and I can still gather information from them. Same as why I'm making the cheat sheet. Then I have a laminated sheet that I can take with me, where, for example, emergency frequencies of the radios are on, emergency numbers for the police, and my GP, for example, are on, and also the numbers of my parents and my brother, for example, because I have them on my phone, but I don't know if that, maybe it's not working or whatever. Then at least I have the actual numbers and not just their name, because who knows the number? I know the number of my wife, and I know the number of my home, but that I grew up in, by the way, because we don't have a normal phone anymore. But so what are you gonna do? So it's thinking about these things as well. And one of the things that I want to buy or get a proper map of the area as well is to investigate what is around in my area. That could be water supply, food supply, or shelter, for example, for whatever reason. Now that's also why I like to understand the woods better and know the woods better, so that I can know or find or think of a way where I could potentially hide and build shelter, and where potentially water could be. So for example, if you look behind me, there's a big hill going down again. I just walked up a hill, as you could hear by my heavy breathing. So that's a nice part of where I'm living, because as I mentioned before, the Netherlands is absolutely flat and it's low. I think Amsterdam is like 7 meters below sea level. But where I'm living is one of the few places where you actually have some type of hills. And I mean, it's not like in Austria or in Italy where you have Alps and stuff like that, where you can literally walk up very steep inclines for miles. But at least it's something. And that's also why a lot of people that like to mountain bike or drive classic car tours, they come to this area. Because first of all, there's a lot of woods, it's beautiful, but it feels like you're in a different country. In the south of the Netherlands it's the same, but it's more extreme even. The hills are bigger. And basically it's because of the Ice Age, if you didn't know. But the Ice Age, before the Ice Age we were a tropical sea, where there would be mosasaurs and stuff like the ichthyosaurs swimming around, basically where most of the Netherlands is right now. In the Ice Age, a lot of rocks from the Arctic and boulders were pressed into the country, and basically that ice sheet that pushed into the Netherlands created a ridge throughout the Netherlands, and I live at the bottom of one of those ridges that was created. Now, another funny thing about that is that during that age, a lot of big boulders were sent within the ice and within that pushing motion to the Netherlands as well. And early settlers in the Netherlands actually used those boulders to make graves and so on. We call them hunebedden. which is basically something like they have in Ireland, I think, with hedge, stone hedge and so on, where they have the big boulders standing upright. We have like table formations with big boulders that they made somehow, and they're basically family graves, I believe, if I'm saying it correctly. So yeah, funny backstory maybe on the Netherlands that you didn't know. Okay, so another thing that I'm doing, and I don't know if any of you do it, is that when I'm walking, and this is something I picked up when walking in big cities, is that as my hands move past my body, I basically stroke my front pocket and my cheek pocket to feel if stuff that I'm carrying is still available. So in my front pocket, on my one side, I generally have my phone, and then on my cheek pocket on that side I have my wallet. So as I swing my arm past it, I basically stroke those pockets to feel if I still have my wallet and my phone. Now I do the same with the other side, where I have on my front pocket generally my keys, and in this case my knife as well. Reason why I'm mentioning this is that in the survival book that I'm reading now, it says ensure that you continuously check your pack, because for example, if you have one survival knife and you were to lose it, that wouldn't be very nice, obviously. So hence having a method where you're constantly checking your equipment in such a way as I'm describing now can be life-saving. So another story on that is that I actually had my multi-tool, my Leatherman, my expensive multi-tool, on my belt strap of my jeans. And as I was walking, I was checking if I still had it. And I walked about 3-4 kilometers, and all of a sudden I didn't feel it anymore. And at that stage, I remembered that the pants that I was wearing actually had a hole in the front pocket. And as I fell for the second time almost there. And as I remembered that, I felt my multi-tool sliding down my leg and ending up in my sock. So, just to show the importance, I mean, that's a €150 multi-tool. So I said I would show my knife that I have on me. So this is the knife that I have on me. It comes in this like PU sheeting. It's a foldable knife. I don't know, it was called by Homies. I don't know if it's a good brand. I like neochrome. I have a lot of neochrome stuff. But no. So it was a reasonably expensive knife. I sharpened it yesterday again. It's, I haven't, normally I use it to open the mail, so I haven't used it for anything significant. So I don't know what the quality is. So backpack wise, one major flaw besides not having a hip support is that there's no side pockets for my drinks. So I was thirsty just now, so I had to take my backpack off and drink, which is annoying. But besides that, it's doing well. The thing actually is that I let my wife know, who was still asleep at the time, that I went out for a walk, and she actually just called me. Oh no, where are you? And I said, well, I took a different route, and it took a little bit longer. I'm a little bit further away than I thought. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is when you're taking a hike or when you're going out or whatever, and it's not driving to work or whatever, it's something different. It's important that people know where you are, and you inform people of what you're doing, so that if something goes wrong, that they can find you and notify the right people. So yeah, that's just also another tip. So that is actually the church of another town over, so I'm actually not where I thought I was. I'm quite a bit further away from where I thought I was, so now I have to walk another 2-3 miles to get back to where I normally exit the woods. So it's not gonna be a 2-hour walk. So I think I found my way out of the forest again. I think I'm coming out of the forest at a 90-degree angle of where I normally almost exit the forest. So yeah, let's hope that is what it is, because I've been walking now for I think 1 hour and 45 minutes, and I'm not home yet. Whoop, almost fell there. Slippery again. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a ramble, this video, maybe. Some of the thoughts that I'm going through as I'm prepping and as I'm doing research. Sorry, I have to look down because it's so muddy. But I'm hoping that you can identify with some of the things I've discussed in this video. And I'm hoping that you still enjoy the series and that you learn something from it. And yeah, well, if you do, let me know. And if you have tips or advice or, you know, clothes that work for you, for example, that are relevant to this video, then let me know. Yeah, and thank you for watching. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.